Hey, and welcome back to an exciting episode of Extra Features Podcast. If you're watching us on our YouTube channel, we're live from Tim Hortons. Well, not really live, but close enough. I have a fabulous guest. Look, he's right here beside me. You never see this. Well, if you're only listening to us on the podcast, check out the YouTube. You can get to see what he looks like. I'm not going to even introduce him. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
How you doing? I'm writer and director Rodney Johnston. I just recently shot the film All the Little Angels, which I believe we're going to talk about today.
Well, if we're going to talk about something else, I'd be a little confused because that's the only film I know you've done. So let's start this off. Why did you want to be a writer-director? I mean, that is work. Like being an actor, you just walk on and go, okay, I got some lines, I'm good to go. But no, you've gone the next level.
For me, it was more about the writing. So I read a lot of stories and stuff like that. And then I got to the point where, a lot of stories started becoming predictable. So I started writing. And then as I wrote, my first piece of writing was actually a novel I wrote years ago. And no one ever read it. And then a friend signed me up for a screenwriting course at George Brown College, oddly enough. And I went there and I realized writing a screenplay is a lot shorter than trying to write a novel. So I wrote several screenplays and, I felt it. It was fun. It was a lot easier for me. And so after writing several screenplays, I wanted to get someone to shoot the film. And finding someone to shoot a film is really challenging because a lot of people will shoot their own stuff. And this was back before, DSLR cameras and all this stuff was really huge. But as that kind of progresses, cameras progressed and people were able to make more and more films easily. And I was like, you know what? I ended up getting a camera. My wife actually got me a camera for Christmas. So I shot my first film with my best friend. And then I shot my second film with my two oldest daughters. And then from there, I was just writing and shooting film.
So how does that feel to open Christmas Day? This is your dream. You've gone to writing school. Did you know the camera was coming?
No, I had no idea. I had no idea because I didn't want to. I would always go to the mall and look at the camera. It was a Canon, and I'm not endorsing Canon or anything, but if Canon wants to give me a shout out, no. I wasn't expecting it. I kept looking at the camera, going to the mall, looking at the camera, and then when the wife got it to me, I was like, yes! But I'm like, I know we both paid for it because it came out of both of our accounts, but I'm okay with it, and I was happy, and that was it.
So you brought up an interesting point, which I didn't know. Your daughters are in this film. So
my one daughter is actually in this film. Mariah, her stage name is Milo. She's actually a singer. So that's Milo, I hope I spelled this right, Migloe. So she was actually supposed to be in the soundtrack as well, but things got complicated with her and her band. They were trying to release an album at the same time. So I actually got a friend of hers to do a track, and one of her producers did one of the soundtracks as well.
So how is that working with, I don't want to say amateur, because I really don't feel that's a proper term. People you know, I guess, is what I'm looking at. Like people you have to honestly face every day.
Well, honestly, so my daughter Milo, this was her acting debut, more or less. But two of the main actors was also their acting debut. So the female lead, who was Andy, who played Lillian, that was her first time in front of the camera. And I think the process was so long because of COVID, this might be her only acting gig. She might never do it again because now I believe she's doing script supervising. And then one of the other actresses, another lead, who was Anita Kresniak, she played one of the villains in the film. And that was her first time acting too. She was used to being behind the camera.
So how does it feel with working first time? I mean, you're a first time director. You usually want a seasoned cast or people that have done the job before. So how's it going into this cold with them?
Well, I'm actually not a first time director. I've done a lot of short films. This is my first feature film. And so that was exciting for me. It wasn't supposed to be a feature film. It was supposed to be a web series. And then COVID happened and then we had to take this long hiatus. And because we had to take the long hiatus, we ended up losing cast members and crew members. And so I had to go back and actually rewrite the entire script, which made it longer, and characters got added, and all of a sudden it was a feature.
So being a first-time feature director, I mean, when we do a short films, you have one location. And your film, you have multiple locations. So how was it during COVID to find these locations?
It was extremely difficult. So again, we had those periods where, we had to do distancing. So I had to be creative with some scenes. There's a scene, if you watch the film, there's a particular scene where an actor is wearing a mask, and you'll have to watch the film and then you think, oh, maybe that's why this person is wearing a mask in this particular scene, because I had two actors basically face to face, and I couldn't figure out a way around it, so I created this scene, which was, anyway, it worked. Uh, finding the locations, Finding locations is always hard, especially when you're an independent filmmaker. A lot of people either want you to pay for the space. We were lucky in that one of the bars is actually down the street from where we are now, and a friend of mine was one of the owners, so that helped out a lot. All we had to do was buy food, for example. Some scenes often are at my house, so I'll have to decorate my house in different ways to make it look like a different place. And so it's challenging, but you have to find those different places that will cost you next to nothing.
Is the basement your house?
What's that?
Is the basement your house?
No, that's actually my nephew's house.
Okay.
Which is also close by.
Because I find I have, okay, so you have two different houses. I thought you had a condo at one point, or is that just tricking me out?
There's three different houses. So
Three.
two houses and one condo.
Oh, so I was right. So I am prepared. Okay.
Yeah, so the condo was an added scene because of COVID. Things got messed up. And actually, that particular scene didn't exist before.
Okay, so you had to rewrite the condo scene later.
Yeah, the actor in that particular scene had about 48 hours to learn his lines. And I'm not sure if you've seen the movie.
Of course I've seen the film.
So that hotel scene, played by James, he had 48 hours. And because of COVID, once again, we had the actor, I wouldn't say bail, he was willing, but I could tell at the same time he was very uncomfortable.
Yes.
So, and then we offered it. Jessica Chin King, who's my co-producer, actually found James within, like I said, we need somebody. She found within an hour. And within an hour after that, he was already spewing lines back to me on the phone. I said, "This is the guy." And I said, "Well, can you do an accent?" Sorry, spoiler alert, he has an accent. It's not his real accent. But he comes in and he just rocked the whole scene. If you've seen it, you'd like, okay, this guy has done this before. But that was actually his first time being able to pull out that English accent on screen.
So in the film, I have a weird production thing. You bring the title of the film very in late during the film. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
You know what? The title wasn't even in there to begin with. So again, that scene was added, and I don't know where the title came from for me. It was more of, I think of all the innocent people, and you think of your children as, my little angel kind of thing. So all the little angels just came to me that way. And then when James came and he rocked that line, anything he said was like, okay, I'm going to get him to say this line. And I wrote it after he did this little audition over the phone. I wrote it in the script, and when he delivered it, it was like, oh yeah. If people can't read between the lines when he says that, it's just, anyway, he nailed it, and it was perfect.
Do you find when you're directing your feature, did you do a lot of rewriting on set, or you pretty much had them do the lines? Obviously, actors take a little bit subtleties here and there. I get that, but I mean, how close is it to your script that you started?
Actually, the actors are pretty much stuck to the script. I mean, anytime there was a slight change, it was either a word here or there, and they would ask beforehand. And I mean, they were totally professional, even the people who had never acted before. And I was like, you know what? Do what feels right. I just wanted to keep the swearing to a limit, because at the beginning I was hoping to use it as a tool for the school board, and but after the rewrite I was like, they're probably not going to use this in a classroom. So, but they were pretty much allowed to do whatever they needed to do to get their character across.
I wanted to point out one of your production values I quite enjoyed was the blue text. I thought it really popped on the screen. Mm-hmm. Now, when you first did it, obviously you didn't have blue text. Was that something always in your mind, or you played with colors?
No, that scene was also added. You're talking about the scene where the guy's texting the girl?
Yes.
So that guy is actually, his name is Preston. He's actually the second cameraman. Oh. And he's also the behind-the-scenes photographer. And he's a photographer. He's also an MMA fighter, believe it or not.
Oh wow!
Yeah. He's actually a pretty good fighter.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, I was making things up on the fly, and I said,
right.
"Do you want to be in a scene? Because I need someone in the scene."
Right.
And he was at home, and he actually filmed that scene from home with his own camera and sent me the footage, and I was able to put it in there. And then I had to YouTube. YouTube is awesome. If you don't use YouTube YouTube was awesome. I went on YouTube and figured out how to make text appear on screen because I didn't want the camera on the phone trying to read text because I hate it when I'm watching a movie.
Exactly.
And I'm trying to read and then it goes by so fast. I'm like, what did it say? And then I got to rewind the movie. So I wanted to figure out how to put it on the screen. So I had to figure that out. And that little scene took a couple of days to learn and figure out how to place everything because I was just really picky about how it looked and it ended up working well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I do have a question. You have an abduction scene in the film. I don't think I'm ruining anything. I'll just give it blank like that.
Yeah.
How did your neighbors or the people on the street react, or did they even notice what was happening?
They did. Actually, a neighbor across the street was another location. And the neighbor next to me was also a location. I don't want to give away. There's a particular scene where you won't even know it's supposed to be one location, but we couldn't get back to that location, so we had to make it appear as though it was the same location. And I was able to use my neighbor's driveway. But they were cool. I let them know ahead of time if they heard any screaming or see someone struggling.
Wondered, right? I mean,
yeah, we don't want the cops coming.
Two large gentlemen coming out and doing things.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm ruining anything about the film.
No,
that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like going, could you imagine a car driving by and watching this?
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking more for you. You know, you're filming at night.
Yeah.
You're trying to keep your neighbors. I'm doing some filming. Let's keep it down.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know. And then some random guy comes, what the hell is going on? And I've heard stories about that, so I wanted to know if anything happened.
Yeah, we were cautious of that beforehand because we also had props.
Yes.
And so anywhere we went, especially with the gun prop, we tried our best not to be in anywhere out in the open with the gun prop. It was a pretty convincing prop.
Yes, it was.
And so I wanted to make sure we let everybody know who was in the vicinity, what we were doing. And we made it pretty clear with our boom and, our lighting and our camera. Anyone walking by, sometimes they'd stop and watch, and I think we made it pretty clear, and it's important to do that.
I want to discuss the look of the two gray men. I'm just going to leave it at that. Mm-hmm. Did you like them differently than other people? Because I found their scenes were a little brighter than everything else.
So we're talking about Vince and Gil, the two brothers.
That's the two brothers.
Yeah. So Vince also, so he's the guy with the longer beard. When you watch the movie, because you guys are gonna watch it. You guys are gonna watch the movie. The guy with the longer beard was actually referred to me by someone who was supposed to play the mother of Lillian. That person didn't end up playing the mother of Lillian, and again, the co-producer Jessica Ching King found someone to fill the mother role. But the person who was supposed to play the mother actually referred Vince to me, and he read the script and he's like, I'm in. Gil, I believe I went on Mandy.com and I found Gil and I solicited him to be a part of the project, and he joined in. And when they met, they just clicked. It's like they knew each other already. But they didn't, obviously.
Because they do seem like brothers, though, in the film.
Yeah, they pulled it off pretty well. They pulled it off pretty well. They took direction very well. Vince has a lot more experience with dialogue and I guess that particular role. So Gil, after just 5 minutes of direction, he just caught on really quick, and they just clicked the rest of the way. I didn't have to say another thing to them. They wrote it right out, and we just had to point and shoot.
Now, when you wrote their depth scene, you know the scene I'm talking about. That's not normal in a film. Usually, the bad guys don't have depth. So was that something new to write for you?
Again, so when you get two actors and we shot, so again, COVID broke things up for us. So we had shot some of the scenes, and then when I had to rewrite, I was like, you know what, this is an opportunity to extend these characters. Originally, they just did the abduction, and then you saw them later on in the bar scene. You got to watch it if you're gonna want to know what we're referring to.
The bar scene's interesting.
So there was no in between really for those two characters.
Okay,
there was a little piece in there, but I extended it, just trying to give them a little bit of a history, and so people understood who they were as well. Because again, it was supposed to be a short series, but now it was a feature, so I was able to extend on characters more, and I would definitely want to extend on those two.
Now, did you feel, like at least I felt after watching the movie, there's a prequel for them waiting? There must be more to these guys, because they discuss other things.
Well, you could have a prequel. It would be challenging because Vince is a little harder to get to now, being with AXTRA. So.
Oh, well, I didn't know that. But
yeah, now he is. So I mean, when we shot that, he was on the cusps, and we were able to get away with it. But now we don't have that flexibility unless we fall within the actual rules. They do have rules that we can
We'll
get
deal
into.
with it when we get there.
Yeah, we
How
will.
about that?
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Now, I gotta say, I really liked your hair and makeup person. I thought everybody had a distinct look, and you don't always see that in independent films. And I thought the costuming was excellent. I always thought it felt real for that character. So where did you find the budget for all that?
I told people to bring their own clothes and do
Okay,
their own
that's
do
why.
their own makeup for the most part. We did have a makeup artist. Now you're gonna get me. Oh boy, her name is Elena.
Uh-oh. Don't listen to this, Elena.
No boy. I'll make it up too, I swear. So again, she was a friend of a friend, so I didn't really know her that well, and she came through for us, and she just rocked it. So she did makeup for our two leads,
Yep.
and she did a bit of the effects makeup for us as well, which she wasn't expecting to do. It's not really her thing, but she rocked it, and it worked out.
Yeah, I want to go right back to the beginning of the film. So I just want to go, when you do that pan shot, you know the one I'm talking about, with all the people standing outside on the road. How did you find all that? Like, did they bring their own clothes, or who are those people?
They were there. You know, sometimes you just gotta do it.
They were not actors? Okay, because I was like, these people look real and like really doing this stuff.
Everything just happened.
Is
Everything
that
just worked.
Toronto?
No, you have to watch the film and
Okay.
see if you recognize the locations.
Okay. How do you market your film? I mean, it's hard. You're an independent curator. You're in Canada too, which is probably a little more difficult in the US. I mean, what markets do you have available?
I mean, for independent filmmakers, it's usually social media, word of mouth. It's one of those things that's really challenging for any independent filmmaker. It's getting your stuff out there is extremely tough. Zelco Entertainment, we were lucky they picked up our project and they got us on Tubi, Amazon UK, Amazon US, Plex. And they got us on quite a few video on demand services, and that's so amazing. But we're still largely responsible for the marketing. A lot of it's Facebook, Instagram. A lot of it's Jessica Chin King. I mentioned her, my co-producer. Us putting our heads together, and we had a lot of support too. We did some fundraising. Surprisingly, I was surprised. A lot of friends donated and helped us get this project off the ground. It was still a very low budget, but we couldn't have done it without our contributors.
Would you use visual effects again in the film?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't know. There's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I mean, that's part of the joy of YouTube as well. You just go online and you just figure out how to do things. And some people might say, "Oh, that doesn't look real," but I mean, other people.
Does the Hulk picking someone up look real? No, because it's not real.
Yeah, but you do things. So a lot of the effects was me. I just had to do it myself. Sound mixing, again, because of COVID, things didn't go the way I planned. I had to learn how to do it myself. Color grading, again. I was stuck at home. I had to learn how to do it myself. So the process was really long and painful, I would say, to a degree where I had to learn, and which is really time consuming. I learned a lot about Adobe products, that's for sure. So I'm happy about that. Again, I don't work for Adobe, but Adobe, if you want to show me, again, I don't work for Adobe, but it was all a learning process. Sure.
Okay, just have everybody comes on and gets free fun questions right near the end. So I'm going to give you your 3 questions. Everybody gets the same first question to know where your favorite film.
My favorite film. Oh, I'm going to say, actually, Glory was one of my favorite films.
Nobody ever says that. It's a great film.
Denzel and Matthew Broderick. Yeah, I
great
loved
film. I haven't seen it in so long.
Glory was one of my favorite. I also, on a totally different spectrum, I loved Seven. With Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. Yeah. And if I were to say another one, I mean, so many.
I know it's hard when I put people on the spot. I always like to say, it's all right, we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah.
One person you're going to work with in the future.
Who would I like to work with? I'd like to work with Denzel.
Well, there you go. Denzel, he's here. His film's good, so make sure you watch it.
Yeah, come on up.
Okay. The last one's a little tricky, but I know you have faith in you.
All right.
One film you always recommend to people because they've never heard of it.
Oh, I don't know what that film is.
Oh, come on, I can give you lots off the top of my head. I can give you one right now that I know you haven't seen.
All right, you give me one first.
Gun Crazy.
I haven't seen it.
1942.
There's one I just watched, and I saw it as a kid, and it horrified me. Westworld. I guess everyone saw the original Westworld.
That's a great film. You know
The
what?
original
that film
one.
does not get enough credit.
That was terrifying.
Brother.
Yeah, that was terrifying to me as a child, and I watched it again recently because it was on one of the streaming services. I can't remember. I think it was on Tubi, which we're on Tubi coincidentally.
Tubi's great.
And terrified me as a kid, and I was like, you know what? I wonder if it still is terrifying now. And you watch it, and it's actually a scary movie. Yeah.
So before we let you go, tell everybody where they can find your wonderful film.
So the best place is Tubi. It's free. You can get it anywhere in the world, as far as I know. Actually, you might not be able to get it in the UK. Anywhere in North America.
That's what VPNs are for.
Yeah. And then, search it Tubi, All Little Angels. Search it on Tubi. If you're in the US or UK, it costs to watch. But it's on Amazon UK, Amazon US. People,
just run a Google search. Streaming, you'll find it. It's free. It's fabulous. Director's here, and he came to see me, so it must be positive.
Yes.
Make sure you watch the film.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for your time, and have a great night.